After watching The Hill, this is one hill that I do not want to climb again. Let's talk about The Hill, the biography sport drama film that is now available in theaters. Is it worth checking out? Well, stick around and let's discuss it. The Hill is the remarkable true-life story of Rickey Hill's improbable journey to play Major League Baseball. The film stars Colin Ford, Dennis Quaid, Joelle Carter, Scott Glenn, Ryan Denning, Carrie-Anna Worm, Bonnie Bedelia, Randy Houser, and many more, and was directed by Jeff Celentano. I saw the Hill trailer a few weeks ago, and when I first saw the trailer, my first thought was this really screamed Lifetime movie, and I honestly was not going to go see it. And then I went to go see another movie, and my mom went with me, and she saw the trailer, and she was like, oh, I really want to see that movie. It looks pretty good. And I kind of thought to myself, oh, geez, I really don't want to see it. But I thought with it being a Christian film, and there was at least going to be baseball involved in it, I was like, it can't be that bad, right? The film starts off and it introduces Rickey Hill. He is a 9-year-old little boy and he's playing with sticks and hitting rocks with the sticks. We're introduced to his father, played by Dennis Quaid. He is a pastor in a church and he's very serious about church. He is so much into church. He doesn't want his son Rickey to play baseball. He doesn't want his son to collect any baseball cards because he believes that those are false idols. They really are a poor family because it consists of him living with his wife's mother. He has another son on top of Rickey, and he also has a daughter as well. And he's the only one working, and they can't even afford to really barely put food on the table. On top of that, Rickey Hill, he has some leg issues. They can't afford to give him a surgery. He also has back problems as well on top of that. And when Dennis Quaid's character tells these people in the church to knock it off with certain things in the church and he gets really offended, these people try to run them out of town and they end up leaving town. And not only do they end up leaving town, but they have previous debts that they didn't actually pay towards the town. And I thought that that was really interesting for a Christian film because you have people here that are really close to God, but at the same time, they're leaving this facility and place that they know all their life, but they are just leaving debts behind and not doing the proper thing of paying those debts back. The film is very poorly constructed. The first hour of this film is really just going through the family drama within Rickey Hill's family. We see a few times where he's picking up a stick and hitting rocks with it. There's a point where he actually hits a rock and it actually lands on somebody's car and it breaks a portion of their car. And he actually praises him for that, and he actually does it twice. The film is overly preachy. There is a lot of points where there is some corny dialogue, some very poor performances, corny performances at that. Dennis Quaid's character, he is so unlikable here. Even though he is a pastor, he might be one of the most stuck-up Christian people that I've ever seen on screen. And I feel like his family, they appreciate him very much, and they show that appreciation when his two boys actually use their allowance to buy him a burger, and he sits there at the table and eats a burger while his family doesn't even really have enough money to even feed themselves. It's meant to be advertised as a Christian film, but at the same time having that background of baseball. It's also poorly structured in how it tells Rickey Hill's life. In that first hour, it's when he's 9 years old. In the second hour, it jumps to when he's 18 years old. You know, he has these injuries, but I felt like they didn't do a really good job of actually showing his struggles that he really has with this injury. It's kind of just, okay, he has these problems, but not doing a really good job of really showing that those struggles really affect him from a day-to-day basis. And the other thing is too, if we're jumping from him being 9 years old to 18 years old, who coached him and how did he all of a sudden get so good at baseball? His father was never supportive of him and he didn't go to any tryouts or want him to play baseball. There's a part where he actually forges his signature to actually play baseball, and the father gets absolutely irate that he wants to play baseball. There's a little bit too much convenience and movie magic within this film, and what I mean by that is Dennis Quaid's family, when they're actually traveling to get out of this town and try to figure out where they're going to live next, they end up having 2 flat tires, their car runs out of gas, Dennis Quaid gets out of the car, he starts praying, and he says, "How can this day get any worse? Direct me, God," yada, yada, yada. It starts raining, of course, and then they trying to figure out what they're going to do next, and then this family actually comes by, takes them in, lets them live at their house, and conveniently they have a job for the pastor to take, and he's going to be another pastor at this really broken down church that needs to be fixed up. And on top of that, also they also have a house for them to live in, and that needs to be fixed up as well. Another scene is in the beginning of the film. You have Rickey Hill, who really has a crush on this girl named Gracie. When they move away, she gets really sad, and conveniently when he's 18 years old, she ends up moving in the same town as him. And of course, there's going to be a love story with that. In Hollywood, you know how they have to throw in a love story, and they do that here. Baseball action for this film is so dull. Most of the time, it shows him in his childhood, playing stickball and playing with his brothers and such. A couple other times where he's doing batting practice. There's only one time where he's playing like an actual game towards the end where he's trying to impress these scouts, and that's basically 15 minutes of the last part of the film. Unfortunately, they just don't do the baseball game justice. And the other thing that I had wondered while watching this film is when they actually cut from him being 9 years old to 18 years old and he's playing baseball, what doctor gave him medical clearance? I found it to be very generic, and it tried to be very sappy in points of the film. I just wish that they separated the Christian part from this film and actually added a little bit more baseball action and a little bit more story with Rickey Hill. I found like we just spent way too much time on the family and not enough baseball action and just not enough of Rickey Hill's story. I feel like they just don't fill in all the gaps that they should in this film. And I feel like this is a film because on Rotten Tomatoes it has a 37%, and I think the audience score is like a 98%. I feel like this is a film, like if you watch a lot of Lifetime movies, if you're not a person that really goes to the theater much, if you like sappy, over the top, really preachy Christian kind of films, I think that you'll absolutely love this. And I think also those kinds of people that watch those kinds of films, they don't look at a film like this and critique it in a way like, okay, different characters not actually getting fleshed out, or the baseball action isn't getting fleshed out. I don't think people that really love these films, I don't think they're looking at it like that. But then I see other people that go to films often, and they look at this film like I do, and they go, there's like a ton of problems wrong with this film. And I feel like that's where I'm at with this film. I feel like I'm on the opposite spectrum of this, because my mom and my stepdad, they really did like this film, but they also watch a lot of Lifetime films. So I feel like those are the kinds of people that are going to really like this. And I also think that people that are really, really into religion, they're really going to love this over-the-top Christian message, and they're going to just love the whole preachiness of this film. And for me, I don't mind a little bit of preachiness. Jesus Revolution, that had a little bit of it, and I actually really like that. It's one of my favorite Christian films of the year. So I don't have a problem with the Christian religion, but what I have a problem with is when you're getting beat over the head so much that the filmmakers, they forget the intent of the story. And when the film actually starts to get interesting and we have Rickey Hill actually on the field and he's trying to make this team and everything, the film just abruptly ends. And I also felt like at the end of the film, when Dennis Quaid, he starts to kind of become a better person, I still didn't really care for his character. I felt like he was an absolute jerk. He wasn't supportive of his son, and it was really hard to redeem him in the end for this kind of story. So as far as the score for this film, I would give it a 1.5 out of 5. I think the way it's shot was okay. Not really bad. I mean, the camera work wasn't really bad in this. The acting wasn't very good. The story wasn't very good. And the baseball story is just kind of non-existent throughout this film. Just too much over preachiness, and a film that I can say that I really don't want to watch again. It's funny too, because I didn't know who Rickey Hill was. I'm a big baseball fan, and apparently this all happened in the 1970s. So that makes sense because it was before my time. But I also found out that Rickey Hill, towards the end of this film, he actually wasn't that big of a baseball player. I think this is more so that he even accomplished the fact that he could step on a field and play baseball. I think in that aspect, it's very inspirational that somebody can have those disabilities and actually play a game like this. I will give the movie props for that, and I give him props in real life for actually accomplishing that, because many people would have just got up and quit. So I definitely think in that aspect it's an inspirational story, but I don't think the story of Rickey Hill is really represented very well. I think that if you really want to learn about Rickey Hill, I think this is probably better to look him up online, or maybe read a book if there's a book out there, because I just don't think this film does it justice. I would even go as far to say that earlier in the year, I watched another biography film called Sweetwater, and that was a basketball movie. And that movie was just kind of meh for me. But I feel like this film is even worse with even trying to introduce a biography story. But let me know in the comments, what did you think about The Hill? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? Have you even heard of it? This film really didn't get much promotion whatsoever, but I was in a packed theater, so somebody knew about this film. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought about this film, and if you haven't checked it out, is it something you're going to check out when it comes to VOD? Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on my next review.